Well, it's been more than 5 years now since Brexit, and the UK's departure from the EU continues to have a big impact on the British economy. Many manufacturers are facing higher costs, slower supply chains and more red tape. Prime Minister Keir Starmer is pursuing a reset with the EU, but the pressure is already forcing some companies to scale back.
The world's finest cloth, that's what Pennine weavers in Yorkshire in the north of England aim to produce. Their fabrics find their way into the luxury garments of designers like Burberry and Armani. 2/3 of their sales are to European clients. Brexit has had a big impact on the small company with around 50 employees.
There is no doubt that our product has become more expensive because of the fact of the extra layers of bureaucracy, the extra costs that businesses have had to incur in dealing with all the paperwork, the shipping costs, the freight costs. It all adds up to costs. So, we haven't lost any actual customers, but I would suggest that we have lost business.
Since Brexit, it also takes longer to get spare parts from the continent whenever a machine breaks down. Pennine weavers' productivity has taken a hit. The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is negotiating closer economic ties with the EU. He calls it a reset. The British Chambers of Commerce are now calling on the government to be more ambitious. Exporters of food or agricultural products in particular have found the new bureaucratic obstacles for cross-border trade too much to deal with. Some have stopped trading with the EU altogether.
We want to see very clear deals done, deals that shift the dial in terms of quicker, simpler, cheaper trade with the EU. Firms are tired of some of the costs, particularly agri-food companies, the extra burdens and delays, loss of product, additional costs from export health certificates.
The EU remains the UK's largest trading partner, but trade intensity has dropped significantly since Brexit. And with the end of free movement, European talent is lacking in the UK, say the British Chambers of Commerce. They are calling for the government to finalise a youth mobility scheme that would allow young Europeans into the country for a limited time.
What business has been telling us over the last 5 years is that they're seeing skill shortages. They've been telling us about the difficulties of being able to deal with the visa system to get highly qualified applicants from the EU into posts and vacancies that are here in the UK. And we hear the same from EU employers as well.
Until there are significant improvements in the relationship with the EU, exporters like Pennine weavers are holding back investments.
The investment decisions in this business, they're very large numbers. We have to have that confidence, and unfortunately Brexit has taken away that confidence in our ability to and our will to invest back into the business with capital machinery.
Brexit continues to impact not only Pennine weavers but the whole British economy. The pressure on the government to push through and finalise their reset with the EU is growing.
And joining me in the studio is my colleague Chiponda Chimbelu from DW Business. Chiponda, great to have you here. Now, how big is the need for a Brexit reset as Prime Minister Keir Starmer is hoping to do?
Well, it is obviously big enough for the Prime Minister himself to say that it is needed. And of course, we did hear also from the British Chamber of Commerce in that piece that was just played that a reset is needed. So businesses want to see it. And that is mostly because the UK is highly dependent on trade with the European Union. Now, just over 40% of exports from the UK, so UK exports go to the EU, and just over half of imports into the UK come from the European Union. So obviously trade is massive between the UK and the European Union, which is why these hurdles as a result of Brexit are such a major issue for businesses. And that is something that, of course, the government will or should be working on trying to change, because economists have also been saying that the UK economy has probably grown at a much slower pace as a result of Brexit, probably up to 8% lower than at the pace that it could have grown in the last decade. And so this is something that has been recognized by economists and, of course, by the government and businesses. And this is why they want to see the change.
So lots of trade, as you've outlined, but also lots of hurdles caused by Brexit. What kind of improvements could a Brexit reset bring for companies impacted?
Well, we did see some of the challenges that Pennine Weavers, for instance, has been dealing with, and of course, the challenges mentioned by the British Chamber of Commerce. It's about the red tape that exporters face. It's about getting talent, getting workers in particular. And to give you a sense of like the challenges, the red tape that businesses face in the UK. Now, the UK does have an agreement with the European Union that it can export goods to the European Union without tariffs. So there are zero tariffs on goods from the UK coming into the European Union. However, UK businesses need to be able to prove that those goods were made in the UK.
Okay.
And for that, there is a definition by the European Union which says that 90% of the goods need to be made in the UK and also sourced in the UK. The parts have to be from the UK. So all of that is something that businesses need to be able to be in a position to prove with, red tape, and that is one extra cost. And then, of course, hiring workers, that would mean, of course, visas and a smaller pool of workers to hire from, as opposed to before Brexit, when they did, of course, have workers also from the European Union being able to go and work in the UK without a visa. So these extra challenges have really caused issues for companies, which has meant also, like we heard from Pin and Weavers, that they are holding back investments because, of course, the cost of doing business is just much higher than before Brexit.
That's Chiponda Chimbelu from DW Business. Thanks so much for that.